Alright, so I want to do this video with my usual silent no voiceover, just with text format video. But I think for this one I'm gonna do the voiceover instead because there's a lot of things to unpack here, so let's go to it. Now I'm gonna install the iPadOS 26 public beta on my iPad mini 7. Bro, you have the iPad Pro, why you don't install it on your iPad Pro, bro? The iPad Pro is
overrated as fuck.
No, but hear me out. I'm using my iPad mini instead because I want to show you that the iPad mini can suffer some of the same issues as the higher end iPad does, which are the iPad Air and the iPad Pro, of course. Alright, let's install the iPadOS 26 public beta, starting with backing up my iPad mini first. Alright, next, let's go to the OS itself. One thing that I immediately notice is when I swipe down on the top right side for the control center, there is straight line appeared right in the center of the screen. It is visible, but still depending on the contrast in the background or the wallpaper, such as wallpaper like this. But that straight vertical line is only appeared in the landscape orientation, while in the portrait mode, well, it doesn't have that vertical line. And yeah, not too major, but that's the first thing that I wanna point out. The new design UI, which is called Liquid Glass, but I still see some inconsistencies in my opinion, and it is still on the console center. As you can see, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I really think Apple could change this toggle on button or something to at least have the same glacial effect as the other icons, which are already have that same glacial effect. Same thing on this network section and the others. Next thing that I noticed is on the assistive touch. It has this weird white outline which I think should not be there, though it already had the liquid glass effect. Same thing with its menu. And for some reason the animation when I opened the assistive touch menu got faster than before, even just moving the assistive touch itself. Another thing that I noticed when I'm using this public beta is on the notification center. When swiping left the notification or tap clear, the view of notification are not like fully disappear, but instead it acts like this. Sometimes it does fully disappear, but with faster animation for some reason. The notification pop-up have the new animation too, which is nicer to me, compared to just generic notification pop-up animation on iPadOS 18 or earlier. Also, the animation when you swipe down the notification center is now the same as when you unlock the device, which is nice touch and more consistent I can say. Speaking about unlocking the device, this change in my opinion is really makes me save times because in iPadOS 18 or earlier, if you wanna unlock your iPad with passcode for some reason, you have to wait like a few seconds before the passcode section comes out. But not anymore in the iPadOS 26, because now it just gives the option immediately to unlock either with passcode or just unlock it with Face ID or Touch ID as usual. This is really helpful for me because I can just unlock with a passcode if I need it and like on time. Alright, now in terms of the readability on this liquid glass design though, yeah, I can say it's all depending on the background situation. Sometimes it can be readable or sometimes it become unreadable because the background is too bright. But I do wish Apple can just add the shadow behind the text and the icons. Heck, even macOS 10 Aqua has the shadow on it. Now I will show you how this new UI looks like so far when I enable the reduce transparency and increase contrast, and you guys conclude by yourself how it looks like. Overall, I still love with this new UI design because of the whole grassy effect that this liquid glass provides, like on the dock and the other elements. And I think it feels better than Windows Aero in my opinion, but again, the readability still become a concern because it's still lacking shadow behind the text and icons, and some inconsistencies that I found that I already talked about it earlier in this video. Anyway, let's go to the battery section on the settings because it's got the redesign. For some reason, I still prefer the old UI though because I can just tap this last 10 day if I wanna see the battery usage for the last 10 day. Because I can just tap this last 10 day if I wanna see the battery usage for the last 10 days. While on the new UI, I don't know if it's not fully 10 days, but I must tap view all battery usage, then list to the separated section to see all the battery usage. So, do you like this change? Or do you also still prefer the old UI too? Just let me know in the comments. Speaking about the battery, is Apple finally getting rid of the annoying low battery pop-up?
Bruh.
Well, no, they still haven't.
Bruh.
Anyway, I wanna talk about the Safari app for a moment because I do notice few of inconsistencies too, like on the tab section like this as you can see. Apple also finally changed how the cursor works on the iPad. Remember, the iPad, not just the iPad Pro you bellows. So watch me trying out the new cursor or mouse pointer mechanism on my iPad mini. I don't know if Apple literally doing this on purpose, that you have to disable the assistive touch first so you can see the change about the cursor shape on the iPadOS, because I just find it weird to be honest. Alright, now let's go to the main cause of this whole iPadOS 26 update, which is the multitasking. But first, let's go to the full screen apps, because Apple got rid of the old multitasking that we used to know, like the swipe over, any traditional, or the old split screen. You cannot find it anymore on this full screen apps option, and it's just become full screen apps, swiping within one app, and that's it. I don't know exactly why Apple decided to remove this all multitasking. Maybe because Apple thought those crybabies only cares about the floating windows that they are already dream about. We'll talk about that later. So Apple just removed that all multitasking that already exists since like iOS 11. Though it still sucks seeing this all multitasking on the iPad is going away, because I still find the old multitasking like the swipe over and the old split screen is useful by some people who are still prefer it. Now let's go to the big star of the iPadOS 26 update, which is the floating windows multitasking, or Win.F as the settings say. Because Apple finally added these features to the iPad, which Samsung, Xiaomi and Huawei already did with their tablet software, especially with their respective tablet line. Now I will stop speaking for a moment and watch me testing this Win.F multitasking. I will see you in a moment.
Bruh.
As you can see, most of the Windows app features are working as intended, despite there are being some hiccups and some complicated things that you just saw in the video. Well, I can say most of the iPad users, especially the iPad Air and the iPad Pro users, will figure out to find a good use case using this floating Windows app multitasking. Alright, so Stage Manager. Well, I mean, you got the point. Because again, most of the iPad user may figure out the good use case of this feature. Alright, next. I wanna find out what if I'm rendering a video project on LumaFusion, and let's see if it's still rendering if LumaFusion is running in background.
Bruh.
I hope the developers can finally implement this background F API because if they don't, well, the way about the background F will be stayed the same as before like on iPadOS 18 or earlier. Speaking about the F running in background, let's see if Apple has also fixed the Safari while it's downloading in the background.
Bruh. Bruh. Bruh.
Well, looks like Apple hasn't fixed this yet, so I wish Apple would fix that crap before the final release. Now I wanna try to transfer some photos and videos and trying out the more improved Voice app, and let's see how it went.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What?
26.
Nope.
Alright, next, the customization. I'm never running into the customization that much, but for sake of testing and curiosity, I'm trying almost all the customization which iPadOS 26 provides. And let's see how good that customizations are. Where you guys iPad user can do some mix and match about this whole customization to make it looks good. Though in my own personal use case, for the home screen customization, the tint color theme still does not look good in some color combinations. Still, there's some app icons that got forced to have tint color theme along with some widgets, but that's the app developers thing though, including Apple themselves. And if you want to choose clear theme, make sure that you have a good wallpaper to combine it or else it would not look good. I think it also applies to the thin color theme too. Yeah, I just prefer the dark mode theme and that's it. Now move to the lock screen customization, which I have one thing that I love about, and its spatial effect. I don't know, I just love this feature that you can moving your iPad around, then the lock screen wallpaper that you choose will have that spatial effect thingy, especially with the bigger iPads. Yeah, I just love this feature for aesthetic reason. And it looks cool though. So after I'm using and trying the iPadOS 26 on my iPad mini, remember, my iPad mini, not my iPad Pro, I think this year's update for the iPad is pretty much welcoming. And I really must thank Apple for bringing this new window management and stage manager across all the iPad models.
The new windowing architecture has enabled us to bring it to every iPad that runs iPadOS 26, including iPad and iPad mini.
And I'll be honest, I could still give some tolerance with some confusion that happening when me or you guys using the new window management, because I am pretty sure some of the iPad users out there could use to it and finding the good scenario while using that new window management. Yeah, I hope it should have simpler too, like they could implement the multiple desktop thingy, like make that home screen act the same as the desktop, just like on macOS or Windows. So by that multiple desktop feature alone, it could at least prevent some of the confusion while using the iPad like a laptop. At least it's still better than just merging iOS and macOS into one OS, which Apple obviously won't do that. And it's still pretty much better than merging Earth and Muni. Though I cannot stand with the fact that Apple still not get rid that low battery pop-up, because with the whole life activities that Apple already implement on the iPadOS 26, and the fact that they all seem to forget about that low battery pop-up, is just beyond me. Also, the transfer speed when you are importing some photos and videos from Photos app to Files app, I hope they can fix that unoptimized transfer speed and took the advantage of the higher USB speed protocol and even Thunderbolt, because it feels like this iPad is having USB 2.0 while I'm importing photos and videos from Photos app to Files app. Just saying. Though I'm glad the Files app itself now it feels more better, especially it's now even closer with the macOS Finder in terms of the functionality. I have no files corruption so far when I'm copying photos and videos to my flash drive, and it's already took the advantage of the USB 3.1 protocol that my iPad mini 7 have, so the transfer speed can already faster. It's just like off eject button while the network drive has it, so it just feels weird to be honest. Don't ever thinking about could your iPad Pro replaces your MacBook Air if those issues are not fixed yet. Yeah, you can just beg to Apple please bring macOS to iPad Pro, but why just macOS? Is it basically dual boot feature, isn't it? I mean, yeah, imagine you can dual boot two iPad OSs, one is the main iPad OS, and the other is the iPad OS beta, like, that would be nice for some iPad users. Oh, remember I said iPad users in general, not just the iPad Pro users. I also wish Apple could add Time Machine as another way to back up the iPad. Yeah, I know you can still back up the iPad with macOS Finder or iTunes if you are using Windows or Apple devices app, but adding Time Machine to the iPad once again, not just the iPad Pro, and adding another way to back up your iPad. Remember, iPad in general, not just the iPad Pro. I also wish Apple would bring back the old iPad multitasking and put it on the first full screen F options, for those who still prefer to multitask on the iPad with that way. I mean, yeah, the new window management is cool, but why do they remove that all multitasking? I just wonder. Liquid Glass, once again, personally, it's visually better than Windows Aereo, and this is from a Windows 7 user for like 3 years. But yeah, the readability is still become a challenge here, and some UI inconsistencies that I already show you a few of it in this video. I also think that this Liquid Glass is basically Aqua 2.0, but who knows. Well, regardless of the bad size that still exists on iPadOS 26, I still think this is a pretty major update for the iPad compared to the earlier iPadOS versions for the last few years that feels lazy in my opinion. So that's pretty much it about my experience using the iPadOS 26. Well, probably this is only the iPadOS video that I create before the final release comes out. So if you catch some minor or even major change on the future iPadOS public betas, just let me know in the comments. Also, if you wanna install the iPadOS beta, I guess you guys already know what you should do. Just don't forget to back up your iPad before installing the beta version, or you are become a complete idiot because you install a noise beta without any backups at all. Alright, I see you all in the next usual video when I mostly don't talk. Bye.
When you get a notification, it interrupts you. You have to deal with that modal alert before you can go on. Well, we have designed a solution, and we call it Notification Center. Now, we didn't stop there. So now if you're playing a game and someone sends you, say, a text message, you get a nice animation from the top. It's right there.